Ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the
Hear me now?
September 10th, 2019 Board of Selectmen's meeting. We went into regular session at 6:30 and then went into executive session. We came out, we're a little behind, but we're ready to move on now. Could I have another roll call, please?
Yes, Selectman Slavin, Manise, Bruce, Titlebaum, and Chairman Tropiano are all present.
All right, let's have our Pledge of Allegiance. And how about Ken?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Chair back here. All right. Announcements. Alan.
Wareham Historical Society has an event on Monday, September 16th, 7 p.m., Methodist Meeting House, 495 Main Street. And the guest speaker is Beth Louie, author of At Home, Historic Houses of Eastern Massachusetts. Admission is free for members and $2 for non-members. Just a quick note, I believe the first week in October we have a Main Street Food Truck Festival, sponsored by Wareham Village Association and also the Onset Bay Association in combination, which is nice to see. Thank you.
All right, Jim, anything?
Pass.
Peter? Mary?
Nope.
All right. Citizens' participation. All right, come on down, ma'am. Come right down, grab a microphone, pull it up nice and tight, and
Tell us your name.
tell us your name. That would probably be a good thing, so we know who you are.
Hi, my name is Diane Kenny. Just wanted to introduce myself in opposition to the casino project. I am part of a group of concerned citizens on Facebook that you may or may not have seen. I know that we are all kind of in a holding pattern at this point, waiting for Rep. Gifford's bill to either gain traction or die. We're also in a holding pattern waiting for the Taunton project to either get the okay or for that project to die. My question is, in the meantime, are the Board of Selectmen, do you have any next steps? Will there be any movement at all in this project between the developer and you, or the planning board, or anybody else?
There won't be any movement as far as I'm concerned until such times as it clears its first hurdle.
And that hurdle being Rep. Gifford's bill?
Yeah, I mean,
Or
it
the
doesn't-
Taunton project?
There's no sense in getting all revved up and getting things going
a long way.
without having that hurdle cleared, because without that, nothing happens anyway.
Okay, that was
And-
the only question I had.
The only thing that we did decide is that if it was going to go on the ballot, it'd probably be in November of 2020.
Correct, which actually, I spoke to Rep. Gifford this morning, and she told me that.
Yeah.
So I believe the Gaming Commission has a meeting on the 10th where they're going to discuss whether they want to change the licensing for this area. So if you're interested, you could go to that, listen, and I don't know if they have a citizens, public input session or not. It's in Boston, I think.
But
on
if I
Federal Street.
understand correctly, the Gaming Commission can make changes, but the legislature would have to.
Correct. The legislature is going to have to make the change.
Gotcha.
All
All
right?
right, that's it.
I think the legislation was the first step to see if this would be feasible.
Viable, right.
or
I did hear
viable.
about the Gaming Commission
Okay, just-
meeting.
Yeah.
So I think it's a smart move to see first step.
Yeah, you- I mean,
Because
you-
there's some that are opposed, some that are for, and I think we need to see whether it's something that could happen or not. So I think it's a good first step.
Don't want to spin a lot of wheels if nothing's going to happen.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
All
All
right,
right,
take
thank you
care.
so much.
Yeah, bye.
Thank
Next
you.
up, board comments. Alan?
Just one thing for now. There's been some discussion on CBG for quite a long time, back and forth. I mean, you can buy it at shoe stores, convenience stores, almost anywhere. Unfortunately, the state of Massachusetts, the Department of Agriculture, controls hemp, and which is what this is a byproduct of. And the issue is that they sent out notices to doctors, hospitals, everybody, that it is not legal to sell this product at this time because
Correct.
some of their rules is it has to be grown in Massachusetts, it has to be tested and certified. I think there's one product that the federal government has okayed. The issue is really that the Department of Agriculture has not set any rules, has not set any regulations that are enforceable, and therefore nobody's doing any code enforcement. So therefore, I had a doctor actually approach me yesterday who has a medical practice that would like to prescribe CBG to some of his clients. He can't because he could lose his license.
Right.
But yet they can go down the street to almost anywhere and buy it. So just so everybody understands, this is something which is really waiting on the state to get their act together in simple English and
Can I
make
add
some
one
rules and
thing?
decisions.
Can I add one thing, Alan?
Go ahead.
One of the things is that in Wareham, they did do some testing of CBD oils that were being sold, and they came back that none of it was CBD oil.
Correct.
So they're selling a lot of things under the CBD oil sort of heading, but a lot of it has no CBD oil in it at all. So that's problematic, and that's why they need to put these regulations in place. And like Alan said, one of the things they're going to make as a requirement is that CBD oil is going to have to be bought within the state from an approved grower and the whole thing, so everybody knows exactly what they're getting. Well, I mean, it's unreasonable to expect to go into a place and grab CBD oil and think you're getting it. I mean, and maybe it has some psychological effect, I guess, it would be okay, but who knows what's in it? It could be a problem, for some people. And you could find yourself in a lot of trouble. So just let everybody know, he's absolutely right. It is not legal to sell CBD oil in Massachusetts.
And in the meantime, there's Amazon.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Well, actually, you don't have to go to Amazon. You can go to about 5 or 6 stores in the mall and buy it.
Go to Vermont.
The reason for my comment is basically that please don't pick on the Board of Health or Bobby Ethier, et cetera. He's doing his job. He's doing what the state says he has to do. And he's not enforcing it because there's no enforcement piece in place for him. So he's sitting in the middle.
One of the other difficulties with this is the state intends to become the biggest producer of hemp, and they really don't want hemp being imported from other places and cutting into their potential monopoly on the growth and the production of hemp products. So, I mean, that's kind of the thing that really isn't making it out into the media, but it's absolutely one of their goals.
I know. Thank you. That's it for me.
All right, Jim?
Nothing.
Peter? Mary?
Nope.
All right, let's move on. Okay, I got appointments, reappointments, it says charter review, but there was no one to come here tonight, so we're not doing the charter review thing. As it turns out, we did get another application. You might have saw it, but it came in after, before we could get the person to come in, so we'll do it next week. And then we're going to start
Weren't
probably
voting
next
on it.
week doing appointments, so,
I thought we were going to vote on it tonight.
yeah, next week.
Oh.
It's scheduled for next week. This was just in case we had a straggler. Unfortunately, the straggler came in late, so. All right, next up is license and permits, application from Paul Rose of Dudley Brown, Onset VFW Post 2846 for 3 one-day liquor licenses to take place September 14th, 15th, and the 21st. These are in the pavilion, I'm assuming.
Yes.
With a
Okay,
rain
do
date.
you want to
I make a motion that we approve the 3-day liquor licenses for the Dudley L. Brown Onset VFW Post 2846 for September 14th, September 15th, and September 21st.
And the
Second.
15th has a rain date of the 22nd, is that correct?
Correct.
All right. All right, motion made by Mary, seconded by Peter. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, abstaining, it's unanimous. There was an approval of signs on town meeting property. They were just basic ones. I've already signed them. One is for, they did do one, where were they? The sign things. Can I have the sign sheets? One was for the wigwam, and the other one was for, I'll tell you who it is. One was for the wigwam, and the other one was for this application for Wareham School Athletic Boosters. All right, so pretty standard ones. So I don't think we really
You're
need to
not
do.
using the road, right?
Huh?
That's the 5K, right?
Yeah.
They're not using the town roads?
No, I haven't got an application for town roads, so
Just for the
it
signs.
might be that they're using the thing, so I don't know.
That's done too.
But I've got nothing. Next
Can I-
up is
Can I
the...
follow up on your thing about the signs?
Yeah.
We got a letter from, who was the Attorney General about the sign bylaws?
Yes.
So that some of them are enforced and some of them aren't, and they suggested that we do some other things to look at the old bylaw, never mind the revisions.
Right.
So I don't know how we address that, and we just
planning
go
board
by
has
what
to.
was there.
The planning board has to address it.
So there's been no changes, correct, in,
Correct.
okay.
It's the first one only. What happened is, I'll tell you what happened. One of the things that was put into there was some restrictions put on signs relative to politics, which is considered a freedom of speech item, and of course, the Attorney General immediately turned it down. It was probably our mistake in some respects for not putting on the bottom that if something was struck down, the rest of it would stand, and then we wouldn't have been going through this thing all over again. But we didn't, and which is surprising because we usually do. It's something that we automatically put on the bottom, but we didn't in this case, and so it was struck down, and the planning board's going to have to go forward and come up with a new one and redo it. I mean,
I think the AG's asking for clarification on some things.
well, there's nothing, I think they turned it down, right, Rich?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There were some things that related to political signs, and at the time that you made these changes, you had been getting a lot of complaints about political signs and how long they were up and size and so
Right.
forth. And so you decided, I'll call it as a Hail Mary pass, that you'd try to do something about it, knowing that most likely it wasn't going to make it. So you tried, the AG said no on those particular points. Everything else was fine. So all they said was, no, come on, you know what we're going to do with it. In fact, just so that you know, the Assistant Attorney General, who ended up issuing the letter, called me up the week before and said, hey, Rich, did you approve this? And I said, no, I didn't. We were just trying to see if you would approve it. And she said, well, you knew what we were going to do with it. And I said, yeah, I knew. But you might have been sleepy that day. And she said, well, okay, I'm going to send a letter saying I'm going to disapprove those particular parts.
But the rest of it is in place now.
Yeah, but the rest of it's in place.
So
that
they
was not
did put the
message
rest
we-
of it in place?
Yes,
I
Yes.
thought they said that we
That's
should
fine.
look at
the political piece.
Then we
of
don't
it.
have to go
on
forward
the
and change it.
bylaw
Yeah.
for another purpose.
Yes, well, Selectman Muniz is
She lined it
correct.
out?
The Assistant Attorney General said, now, she said, I'm not approving these changes. And then she went on to say, now, if your current bylaw, which is still in effect, happened to come before us today, I'm not saying we would have approved that either,
They wouldn't.
even though they had approved it years ago. All she was saying was that if we re-voted it and sent it up to them today, they probably wouldn't approve it. So
So what's on the books stays on the books.
what's on the books has been approved by the Attorney General, granted a great number of years ago, under case law, is presumptively valid. It's enforceable, at least until a court says it's not enforceable. That being said, it might be worth the planning board's effort to go and look at what some communities who've had more recent approvals have been doing.
Tweak it,
Yeah, tweak it.
yeah, which is what I thought we were trying to do. Yeah, okay. Next up is the transfer of fee simple interest of Littleton Drive property. This is, remember, it came in front of town meeting and they authorized it, so we're just following up. I think Rich is going to present this one, actually.
I think it's just exactly what we said, we're just doing the action plan.
Oh, okay, all right, if that's all you want, because I don't, you sure? Everybody's okay with that? All right, then give me a motion.
Is-
To transfer the fee simple interest of Littleton Drive to the
Redevelopment Authority.
Redevelopment Authority.
So moved.
Motion made by Mary, seconded by
Second.
Peter.
Just by way of information, both Mary and I filed disclosures with the town clerk regarding votes as selectmen on requests from the redevelopment authority. We don't have any financial interests in the redevelopment authority or anything like that, so this is why we're able to participate.
Okay. So, any discussion?
Would there be any restrictions on the property once transferred, or is it just open to do whatever they like
I don't
with
think
it?
town meeting put any restrictions on it.
Oh, I'm asking if we are, I know the purpose, the
But
intended
we're
purpose
doing just what town meeting asked us to do, that's all.
to transfer it.
That's right. That's all we're doing.
That's it.
And anybody else? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? It's unanimous. All right, next is the discussion about the Police Feasibility Study Committee. Mr. Sullivan has the list of individuals that we'd like to see placed onto this study committee.
I haven't seen it.
Positions, actually.
Yeah, not actually people, but this is, this follows a similar format from Bourne. And I'll just tell you how they set it up. The Police Facility Building Committee shall be composed of 8 members who possess knowledge, experience, or interest in engineering, construction, finance, modern law enforcement management. I would say even just with our feasibility studies in the past would be a good person as well. Included in the committee membership shall be 1 member of the Board of Selectmen, 1 member of the Finance Committee, 1 member of the Capital Planning Committee, 5 members appointed at large. I guess that'd be appointed by, I'm assuming, the Board of Selectmen, or myself if you'd always want that. But the town administrator, chief of police, and 2 members of the police department staff shall serve as ex officio members. They shall attend the members as required and requested by the full committee. So.
Okay. So I would like to establish that committee now as presented by town administrator.
Copy that?
So moved.
Motion made by Peter, seconded by Alan. Any other discussion?
Can I just have that rundown?
Yeah. Well, and Selectmen, FinCom, Capital, at-large, how many at-large were there?
5?
5.
Five,
Five
right?
at
5
large.
at-large. And then the town administrator, and then there's 2 policemen as
The
ex
chief,
officios.
yeah, the chief and 2 members of the police department staff as ex officio.
But the 8 official members are the Selectmen, the Finance Committee, the Capital Committee, at-large 5, and the town administrator. Those are the 8 members. The others are ex officials, meaning that they have some
Contribute but
input,
can't
but
vote.
they're
voting.
just non-voting.
Gives me no power.
Can you send that to us, so we'll... yeah.
Yes, we can send you a
Thank
copy.
you. 'Cause I
We'll
hadn't
send it to
seen
you so you can have it and put it in your
Yeah,
file.
we hadn't seen it, so...
All right?
This would also go in the town, the committee book that we have in our office as
Yes.
well.
Yes.
There's a
And we'll put out a
board-created
call
committee.
for people to put in for the committee openings and whatever.
Yeah, and this
Okay.
would be, they have to have minutes, they have to have everything. This is,
All of them should.
It's a real committee.
yeah.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, abstaining, it's unanimous. So the committee has been established. I would like to serve on that committee. I would like to be...
Move to appoint our chairman as the member.
Second.
Motion made by Peter, seconded by Mary. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, it's unanimous. Okay, next up, closing of the town meeting warrant. First, before
First, we
we
gotta put
close
some
it,
articles
we
on.
should put some stuff on it. So if you look at the last thing that we just handed you, which has the 24 articles that are proposed, there's 24 of them on here. Does anybody have any questions about any of the articles that are on the
No.
warrant?
No, but I have kind of a question on, when's the last day to submit?
The last day to submit is gone by.
Was the 5th.
It was the 5th, yeah.
Yeah, so do we actually like use that as a date for the last day to submit, or is that just kind of like we'd like to have them by then, but we'll keep taking them?
Well, it's kind of, just so I can speak to that a little bit, because I've been involved in
Nice.
these warrants for a long time. Typically, that's the date by which we ask the other boards to have their articles to us. It's not even actually a policy per se in our town policy manuals, but when we do that thing that you saw during the summer, when we set out the deadlines for
Set out
town
the
meetings.
dates and times, last day to
Right,
submit,
and-
last day to close. or
Exactly,
official
all that
closing.
stuff that's based on the bylaws and the charter, that's the date that we give the committees sort of as their day to get things
Everybody.
into us.
Right, everybody?
Well,
Yeah, it'd be committees.
What's interesting
and
is that it's-
citizens
it's-
petitions and.
yeah, petitions can come in a little later.
It's nice to have consistency in this, and if we're going to have rules, we should kind of stick by them, and, you know, we can get a date, but, you know, it would be nice, I think, to have consistency, and if you say this is the day, this is the day, and just not keep dumping them on as we go forward. I mean,
Well-
that's just my perspective on it.
Well,
Otherwise, it's, you know, why even bother even having that day?
Well, what
Why
articles
even
are
put
you-
it out there?
what articles are you talking about in specific?
I'm just talking about,
Talk about the process, more or less.
yeah, the
And,
process.
you know, and I don't think he's incorrect this time around. I know that, for example,
Saying, I'm not saying he's incorrect.
No, no, no.
So I'm just saying, you know, things come in after, they trickle in. And, you
Well,
know,
just, there's.
we have a major trickler right over here, but that's typical.
Well, but
And
those-
sometimes we trickle ourselves, you know.
I know that.
But those are articles
just
by the
making
Board of
a-
Selectmen, and the board,
They
that's,
don't have to follow that process?
No.
Oh,
Ground
it's our
control, major
warrant.
I
trickler.
didn't read that in there. That
No, it's
didn't
our
say-
warrant.
I didn't read where the Board of Selectmen are exempt.
that is the last day for anybody to present articles to us.
But we can be creative right up till the day we close it.
Exactly. We can be creative right up to the
Oh,
day.
okay, that's
Right now, we could
good to
change
know.
this and say, no, we're not gonna put
That's
something
us.
on here.
That's the
Right.
selectmen.
Correct.
Yeah,
We
We
could do-
actually put everything on the warrant anyhow.
Correct.
except for the petition
Except the
articles.
petition article.
Right, so we can submit, anybody can submit to us, and we can say okay or not.
Hypothetically, I guess one of you guys could make a suggestion right this minute, as
Yeah.
we're setting this on here, and we could add it. For us.
But Selectman Muniz is correct. I'm a little guilty of,
Well,
or
you're
majorly
not
guilty.
the
Well,
only
he's
one.
always, you know, the thing is, see, people have to understand, it's not as easy as it sounds to put this stuff together.
No.
It isn't.
No, but, you know, the 45 days is a minimum.
There's stuff that comes up at
Have
the
it
last
60
minute.
days,
The good thing is
mission.
the good thing with this warrant is we cut down on the placeholders.
But,
That's
you
good.
know,
I'm good.
Okay.
Yeah, I just wanted to,
all right, no, that's good. I know,
Statement
I know
here.
some people don't understand that, but
well, I
the
understand
warrant,
it different
the
than you,
warrant
so
belongs to the Board of Selectmen. We make it up, we decide what goes on it, it's ours.
move along.
And we typically, sometimes at the very last minute, are making changes to it until we get to where it is. I mean, it just is. The boards and commissions and things, we set a deadline saying, this is the latest time you
That's
can
what
give
I'm,
us this.
that's what I'm saying.
That's that date.
Yeah.
That's what the
I'm
fifth
saying.
was. All right. So anyway, does anybody see anything on here that they disagree with, that they want to take off or add on something else before we go forward? Yes, Alan?
There's one item that I'm not sure Mr. Bowen can chime in, but I asked some questions today in Boston, and I
Article 23.
didn't get a good answer, and that had to do with, a second, if I can find it here. Boom, boom.
I have one, too.
Article 19. There are no rules, there are no regulations yet. I'm not sure you can put a moratorium on something that doesn't exist yet.
Not having you vote in time. Talk to Alan.
Yeah, no, I agree. I actually agree with you.
What does Mr. Bowen say?
So which one is it?
19.
19, okay, let me get to 19. Amend the zoning bylaw, 3, new subsection 399 marijuana facilities. Isn't this, let's see if the town will vote to zoning
Social
bylaw.
consumption moratorium, right?
Yeah, it's a moratorium,
Yeah.
basically.
But it doesn't exist at all right now. There are no rules, there's no regulations. I doubt very much the Attorney General is going to accept a moratorium on something that doesn't exist.
Well, I think the reasoning the planning board had, and I agreed with them at their hearing, is that right now, we know the Cannabis Control Commission doesn't have any regulations in place for this, but that could change within the next year. So I don't know that that the AG is going to find it unlawful to outlaw something for a year that doesn't yet exist, but
Well, we've done that before. We did this before the regulations came out the last time.
Yeah,
put
but
a
we
moratorium in
did
place.
that because the AG said we were allowed to put a moratorium in at that time, not beforehand.
Well, I mean, they can turn it down, I guess, you know? We're just trying to cover our butts until,
Understand?
actually, this is a zoning bylaw. This isn't going to go to the AG anyway.
that's true.
We get some input from Mr. Bowen, our attorney?
Yes, you can. Mr. Bowen?
Thank you,
Absolutely,
Mr.
can.
Chairman and the board members. This would go to the AG. Yeah,
it does.
because zoning articles do routinely go before the AG, just like that political sign one.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to hazard a guess and say the AG probably would approve this, if for no other reason than what we're doing is we're effectively banning something that isn't legal anyway. So they might say, well, okay, it's kind of like a cumulative ban, the necessity of which may be open to some debate one way or the other. But we're certainly not stopping anybody from doing anything that they could otherwise do. So I think at least for that reason, they would probably say, okay, you want to do that, you're worried that the Cannabis Control Commission might get ambitious and come up with something in the next year, yep, all right, go for it. That's my guess. So I think you can do it.
Thank you.
Okay. Peter, you had one?
Yeah, this Article 23 at the request of the sewer commissioners, the WPCF funding request for process improvements. My understanding is they're going to be looking for something like $10 million, and yet we're presented with an article that says to see if the town will vote to appropriate a sum of money, so we don't even know how much money it is. And then it goes through every single possible funding source known to man, so we don't really know where the money's coming from. I mean, it seems to me that the voters need to be presented with a hell of a lot more information than this before they go and spend 10 million bucks or whatever it's going to be.
Well, we're going to know that. We're going to know all that, just like we do with all of these articles. Next week, everybody's coming in to make their presentations, and we'll know then. And at that point, we can decide, you know, I mean, this came from the sewer commissioners. I think it sounds legitimate to put on, but maybe back when we get to the discussion, we could say, no, we disagree, and, you know, vote against it. I mean, and it'll be, once we see the whole thing. This is just, you know, to get it on the warrant, basically.
No, I sort of get it, but I would have hoped for
This
a
is-
project of this magnitude, scope, and expense that we would have had more of the details so that we could base our decision upon that rather than, you know, guesstimates.
I can tell you one of the important things about this article, and I know what you're saying, Peter, and this is the thing that is hopefully going to resolve the odor control issues, ultimately. And, you know, I don't know about you, but I get, I don't know, 30 emails a day about odors at the plant. They come to me and they just keep coming, and I'll get 4 or 5 from the same person every day. Oh, opened my window today, it smells. Oh, I did this today, what a terrible thing. Couldn't go outside and have any fun today because of this. And this has been going on way too long. So whatever it's gonna take to get there, we gotta get there. So let's put it on, Pete. Let's let them come in and make the presentation, and hopefully this is the solution to the presentation. If it isn't, then we'll have to do something different.
No, it's just, I wasn't looking to keep it off, but it's just an observation that when
Yeah,
you're, when
it's
you're
a good
asking for
point,
this kind
though.
of money, you should let us know what it is at
Well,
the
it's a
time you're
very good
asking for it.
Mr. Chairman, I do want to point out, though, this won't be awarded till next October, so it does not need to go to this town meeting. It
could
could
go to
go
a
to
special.
spring. It could go to the spring
Special.
special. So if it's, they
that's-
just had the engineers do, I think it was GHD did the engineering work on it, but if we want to have either a peer review or a second, because it's, I mean, what they stated, I'm not an engineer, what they stated seems to look pretty good, but, you know, this is a $10 million article.
Right.
So it's $1 million, and then there's 9 million in borrowing. That's what it said in the explanation.
Right.
So, the 9 million borrowings from the clean water, or whatever they're calling themselves before, it used to be the,
0%.
Well, I mean, I don't see any
could
problem.
be, could be zero,
Saying.
could be some debt, could be some forgiveness, but, I mean, it's,
Well, why don't we wait until we get the presentation?
see the
We'll just
numbers.
leave it
Yeah.
on, we'll wait for the presentation and see how we...
Yeah.
yeah. So part of this is to take, I am concerned that they're taking it out of one location. So that's why you'll see this has been changed around by the bond company to basically clean it up, and you can work with it a little better, because they were taking it from the capital stabilization, which
Oh,
isn't
okay.
necessarily,
The
you know,
right
the
place to
best
take it.
option right now. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
So
Anybody else? All right, could I have a motion to include Articles 1 through 24 on the warrant, please?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Peter, seconded by Mary. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, it's unanimous. Okay. In keeping with that, we'll move to close the warrant.
So moved.
Mary, you can read your...
Oh, do you have the,
She's got the...
she's got the paperwork?
Yeah, she got the paperwork there somewhere. Should be for the close of the warrant, you should have a thing. Where's the, no, I guess not. Isn't there anything there to close the warrant with?
I don't think we have any, there's no
I don't
formal
think we need
language
anything
required.
fancy. Let's just make a motion to close the warrant, and we'll go from there. Motion made by Mary, seconded by Peter. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, okay, it's official. Madam Moderator, you have official document now.
It's not official till the constable knocks on the door.
Well, but you have it closed, and you'll get knocked on before you know it.
We all
All
get
right,
knocked
and
on.
we're gonna sign it, so we're good. The signature is over here. All right, next up, any other town business not reasonably anticipated 48 hours? Anybody? No.
No.
All right, moving on. Town administrators report, please.
Mr. Chairman, the Council on Aging received from the Executive Office of Elderly Affairs an additional $20,000, which I believe they're going to be using for equipment and personnel, which is the outreach coordinator. So it's a very nice thing.
Very nice.
As we're telling some nice stories about the community, the finance director, Mr. Foster, alerted me to something that was really great and symbolizes, our town. And today there was a woman that was having trouble paying both her auto excise bill and sewer bill, and it was about $60 late. She didn't have enough money to cover it, and somebody that was just there stepped up and paid the $60 and just gave her the money. And I thought that
That's
was pretty
awesome.
incredible, and
Nice.
paying it forward.
There's so much of that in this community all the time.
And that's the, outside of the warrant articles on the next agenda, we have worked and come up with an agreement for the solar project that's on the warrant. So make a copy and send it out to everybody. I received it today.
Okay.
So, yeah, that's it's a good project. Looks like it'll be, it's $14,000 per megawatt DC, plus a $10,000 one-time payment to cover our legal fees and signing costs and stuff. So when you look at it, once they get up and running, it's usually about two years from when you sign these, from when they're up and running and are actually taxable. So it's $14,000 megawatt project, 13.1 megawatt project, 14,000 per. You're looking at 43,400, and then it increases at 2.5% over the 20 years. And so in the last year, it's value of the pilot's a little over 69,000. So it's a nice deal.
I don't know if you noticed the big smile on your face when you started to talk about the money.
So
All of a sudden, it was a big smile over there, too. Mr. Pigeon, too.
so-
Big smile.
Say-
Oh, money?
Now, did Bernie play the sad trombone, or is that is that his ringtone for when I call?
That's pretty. That's pretty funny.
So,
All right, next up, liaison reports. Alan, you're on.
Time to go to bed. This is the second Tuesday of the month, which is my wonderful trip to Boston, as usual. The good news from the state is the fiscal year that just ended, they were $1.1 billion over benchmark revenue. So the governor has proposed a $648 million supplement budget. It has to go through this. I'll give you a quick synopsis of some of the things. They're looking to increase Chapter 90 funds by $40 million. Clean Water Program, there's a $35 million pending on that. For Triple E, which affects our area, there's a $3.5 million program for spraying. There is a couple other pieces on the Chapter 90 coming through. They have a proposal for roads that are owned, basically state numbered roads, but are owned by the municipalities. There's a $100 million program. I checked with our Director of Municipal Maintenance and stuff, and unfortunately, we don't have any. And I checked with almost every member of the Board of Directors of the MMA, and they don't have any either. So I'm not sure where that money's going. There's another $50 million for bottleneck areas. Maybe our area over by Depot Street and Route 6 and 28 might qualify for that, as far as that goes. One of the interesting pieces, the cable companies, as of September 21st, can renegotiate all existing contracts. And there's probably going to be a nationwide suit against it, but the bottom line is come the 21st of September, they can come back to every city and town and renegotiate contracts.
Wow.
Yep.
So they have basically made their contracts that are with us now null and void?
They can come back and go back after us as of September
Why would you
21st.
do such a thing? I mean, if you have a contract in place, a contractor's a contract.
Speak to your federal government.
How can they null and void a contract?
That's what they passed. FCC, not the state.
Oh, there's
Federal
going to be a
government.
big suit over that.
Yeah, there is. There's an increase in small bridge projects. The problem there is the bridges can't be more than 20 feet. I don't think we have anything left there at all. And the other issue people are talking about is the plastic bag bill. It's been watered down in the House and Senate, and it also eliminates local ordinances. So the end result of the bill is that it's less effective than what exists in a lot of places now. So I'm not sure whether that's going to go through or not.
Okay.
And that's kind of it. There's different things going on, but it's just the beginning of the season till the fall.
All right. Jim?
Had a affordable housing trust meeting today, which was good, kind of a kickoff, and
There we go.
interviewed a new member. There's another candidate that will be on the next meeting's agenda. Had some good discussion going over some outstanding issues, current issues, as you know, something we want to refer to our attorney for a deed restriction. So it was a good start, and I think people's have a good perspective on it now, knowing something's going to move and happen, and it's nice to see that. We'll have a Carver, Marion, Wareham refuse meeting coming up. I'll have to post the date, so anybody. And also the minutes will have to get posted, the last minutes, but, we're moving forward, and as far as that goes, we discussed the fees, there's some, discussion about, the processes that we use. We're trying to get the audit completed, and, I took the advice of, counselor and spoke, called the company we had been trying to get to do the audit, and one of the principals, Jim Powers. And surprisingly, his partner was working on it that weekend. So, I mean, this is a long time coming. This is, January of 18? So what we want to do is just get a baseline so we can move forward. We can't go through all the forensic stuff. But, so that was good. That was a positive note because we were getting nowhere with that. So that's about it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Peter?
Yeah, a couple of things. One is, the triple E threat remains serious, and it's going to be serious until there's a good hard frost. And by hard frost, I don't mean dip it down to 31. I mean well into the 20s to freeze up everything and kill the larvae and kill the flying bugs. One of the things, and I've put it up on Facebook, but one of the things I've done to remind myself to spray before I go out is take a shopping bag, a Stop and Shop bag or a Shaw's bag, put the bottle of Deep Woods Off right in it and hang it off the doorknob. This way, there's no way I can get out of the house without at least looking at it. And it's been a pretty good reminder. It's no fun looking down at your leg and seeing a mosquito latched on and wondering if that's the little bugger that just killed you, because this disease is that serious. So, please do something like that. Please use DEET. Don't rely on the spraying program to be 100% cure-all for this, because there are many areas that are too environmentally sensitive for them to spray. So you're not protected when you go there. Just because they sprayed around your environs or your house or something like that, unless you're there 24/7, you don't have a whole heck of a lot of protection out in the great wide world. So please just spray yourself. The second thing is, with regards to the opioid litigation, that's out there. It's all predicated on the notion that these drug manufacturers misled people, created addiction problems, and municipalities are beginning to catch on, and they're suing the opioid manufacturers to try to recoup some of the money from their misrepresentations and their misconduct. I would like, Mr. Chairman, at some point in the future, if we could have an executive session to discuss the possibility of getting involved in this ourselves. I'm sure that our police chief, I'm sure the people in the fire districts who've had to respond, I'm sure EMS can all come up with a means of quantifying how much this has cost the town. And I think we should look into the process of seeking cost recovery from basically legal drug dealers. Thank you.
Agreed.
Yeah, how about you?
I got nothing.
No, you got nothing? All right. Okay, so, next up is Richard Bill, right? Consent agenda?
Yep, I move that we approve the invoice for the law office of Richard Bowen for the amount of $15,650.00.
Second? Motion made by Mary, seconded by Peter. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, it's unanimous. All right, so, next week, we're gonna have a good meeting. We're gonna have all the individuals responsible for articles on the warrant in here next week. We'll be going through them. I wanna try to get them out of the way so that we have heard from the various odd boards and proponents and so on of the articles. And then I hope that everybody will do a little bit of homework so that they understand the articles as we're going into this next week. I hope that administration and council are prepared to answer any questions as well, so that maybe we can put a lot of these things and put them to bed next week and try to get this done as quick as possible so that we can move forward. Well, I
Ask
know,
us no questions.
yeah. Look, I know that some things will not be ready, but there is a good chunk of this that could be ready that we can dispense with next week. And I hope that everybody will do a little homework and be prepared, okay?
Always prepared.
And that way we can get this done and moving on, and Madam Moderator will be happy and ready to go. All right, next is adjournment.
So moved.
Motion made by Mary, seconded by Peter. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, it's unanimous. Thank you, Wareham. Have a great week.